Hello. Um, Welcome to a spur of the moment presentation about what to do for your child's ACT and SAT. ACT. Basically, what do the ACT and SAT scores actually mean, and what should we do next? Okay, why I'm doing this is because this is a very common question I get this time of year after juniors have gotten some test scores back from state testing, or you're waiting for them, and you're kind of like, I don't know what we need to do next. My name is Tina Wiles. I'm the founder of My Tutor, and we are a small test prep company located in the Chicago area, and we also do online programs. So, what I wanted to do today is to go through really what the scores mean, kind of reflecting on scores, deciding the next move. So, should your child retake a test, reboot, kind of look at how you approach the tests to begin with, or relax? Like, is the score good enough, and you're all done, and you don't need to think about testing anymore? And then we'll talk about a prep plan. So, all together, this should probably be like a 20-minute presentation. Um, Feel free to post comments, questions. Let me know. I'll also share my email address, and feel free to shoot me an email to see if you have any questions. All right. So step one, let's understand what the ACT score means. So I'm going to talk about ACT specifically right now, simply because that was the state test we used in Illinois this year. And like, does your child need a good score? Or what is a good score? Because that varies from student to student. So what does the score actually mean? So ACT and SAT scores are used really for three things. One is college admissions, one is merit scholarships, and one is college class placement. Okay, so those are the three things. Let's break that down a little bit more so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. All right, so here is from Prep Maven, a nice graphic going through. This was 2021 data. It's hard to get data for 20, like this last test cycle yet. But these were top public universities, basically the middle 50%. This red line is an ACT of a 20, which is actually the national average on the ACT. And the black line is at about a 26, and 26 is getting about 2/3 of the problems right on the test. And you can see that, yes, there are the elite schools that are up here near the top, where really 30 and above should be a goal. But there are a lot of schools that are between the 20 and the 26, and some that are even that go lower than that. Okay, so just to give you an idea of the various ranges, and when they give us these ranges, what that means is it's the middle 50%. So that means that 50% of students admitted to these schools had test scores. So if I look at University of Minnesota, 50% of the students admitted to University of Minnesota had between a 21 and a 28 on their ACT. What that means is 25% of the students actually scored above a 28, and 25% of the students scored below a 21. Okay, to give you an idea of what all these numbers mean. All right, now let's talk about the different things for college admissions: test blind, test required, and test optional. All right, so test blind means they will not even look at the scores if you send it. So one of my sons, I have 4 sons, 2 are in college, one's a senior in high school, and one's a freshman. So my one that's a sophomore in college right now, he's going to Chicago, or Columbia in Chicago. And Columbia in Chicago is an art school, um, and they are test blind. If he sent the score, they wouldn't even look at it. So it's usually art schools that would be test blind. Um, Test required. Some of this is kind of the trend is going back to this. So like Purdue added it last year, requiring test scores. Um, University of Missouri is adding it for next year. They're going back to test required. So there are schools that you need to send a test score for admission, and then test optional. So test optional is just like it sounds. You can send your score or not. Okay. But how would you know what you need to do? Like whether they are test blind, test required, or test optional. What you want to do is actually Google the name of the school with test policy at the end. And then when you go, you want to the browser, you want to make sure that you're looking at the link that's actually through the university. So this says admission.uky.edu. That's how I know it's actually the University of Kentucky site. Why you want to make sure that you're doing that is because the information changes so quickly that you want to make sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date data, and websites that summarize that aren't always up to date. Okay, so now kind of begs the question, if most colleges accept ACT or SAT scores, but they might be test optional, does it help if you submit scores? So there are a couple of things that kind of, I think, skew this data. So this chart is through Prep Gurus, and it was applying with submitting scores versus without submitting scores. And you can see here that the admission rate for submitting test scores is higher. But I think there are a couple things that might come into play there. One, the people submitting test scores most likely had really good scores. So maybe that was one of the reasons they got in. But also, I think there was some bias, not necessarily intentional, that college admissions people kind of go with, if they didn't send a score, it's probably not good. So I think that you're better off sending the scores than not. But again, you do what you think is best for your child. All right. Another reason to submit scores is merit scholarships. And how you can find if the schools you're looking at have merit scholarships based on test score is actually put in the name of the school you're looking and then add merit scholarship to the end. And again, you want to go to the website that actually is through the university. And this is the Mizzou freshman scholarships. And sometimes they're really this straightforward. Here's a GPA out of a 4.0 scale. Here's an ACT score. And you can see that, like, if you have a 27, a 4.0 GPA and a 27 on the ACT, but you go up 1 point to a 28, that goes from 8,500 to 21,500 per year for non-residents. Okay, so again, it's at least worth looking into at the schools to see what goal scores you should be looking at. And then last but not least is that test scores can help with college class placement. So here's an example of I got an email I got recently that we didn't get the ACT score that we were hoping for. It did go up a couple points from where he was at before, but he scored high enough to go directly into English 1 and college algebra at Whitewater and UW-Milwaukee. So why this is such good news is because those college placement tests that you take typically at orientation, a lot of people don't put a lot of weight or prep into it, or maybe not take them as seriously. And you can end up in remedial classes where you have to pay to take the class, but it's not counting towards credit for graduation. So test scores can sometimes help with placing you into the right classes without having to take the placement test at school. All right. Step 2. What's the next move? Should your child retake, reboot, or relax? So here are 6 questions. Am I below the average ACT score for my top choice school? Could a 1 to 2 point increase open up more scholarship or admission opportunities? Do I have time to prepare seriously before the next ACT test date? Which I'll talk about next test dates in a little bit. Was I underprepared, sick, or overly anxious on test day? Am I motivated to put in effort to improve my score? And are upcoming deadlines far enough away to allow for a retake? So this one's definitely a yes for right now for juniors, right? Soon to be rising seniors. You want to go through these questions and ask how many yeses do you have? So count the yeses. Now let's score this decision matrix. So 4 to 6 yes answers. I would strongly consider retaking the ACT. You have clear reasons and time to improve. If you only got 2 to 3 yes answers, I would consider maybe retaking it. Okay. But when you're thinking about maybe retaking it, really look into the amount of time that you want to dedicate and how motivated you are to do it. If you are not motivated, I wouldn't waste the money. And if you got 0 to 1 yes answers, there is probably no reason to retake the ACT. You want to focus on using your current score strategically, and you are in the relax stage. No retaking or rebooting. Okay, if you're retaking or rebooting, we're going to talk about building a prep plan. So upcoming ACT test dates, there's one in June, there's one in July, September, and October. And these 4 tests, you'd be able to get the test scores back before the first round of applications is due, typically the November 1st. But there are some changes coming up. So if you have these 2 in purple that are pink, the June and July test, and September and October are green. And it's because the June and July tests are going to be a different format. They're long tests. It's what we've been taking for years. There's an enhanced ACT that's being launched in September, so that the September and October test would be taking the shorter exam. You can see there's a considerable decrease in the number of questions. I think it's 44 questions total that it goes down. And if science is not your jam, the science section is optional starting on the September exam. All right. So the June 14th and July both have limited availability. The registration date for the June test is tomorrow. On May 9th. July 12th, it's hard to get test locations in Illinois, but I know neighboring states tend to have availability then. Or you could wait until September and October. You can register for the test by going to act.org and you just click register, or you can Google register for the ACT. They now say it takes less than 10 minutes to register, which is really good because it used to be over 30. All right, so how to prep? Let's come up with that game plan. Books are good, online programs, and then tutoring classes, right? So they all have pluses and minuses. Books, this actually just was released yesterday. It's the official ACT prep guide for 2025-2026. I have one right here. You can work through it at your own pace. The negative is that there's no feedback, right? You can look through it, but if you're stuck, it's hard to, you have to ask around. Online programs, the positive, you can work through at your own pace. Obviously more expensive than the books. The negative is no accountability with a lot of the online programs. And then you can do tutoring or classes. Of course, I'm going to recommend mytutor.com. But you get customized, targeted prep. It is more expensive, though, than the books or online programs. When you're looking for online programs or tutor or classes, this is what I recommend that you look for. So you want to get to programs that are reviewing the content, reviewing the strategies, and talking about mindset. In those 3 things. And a lot of places might only cover one or two of them, you want to make sure that you're looking at all three. So reviewing the grammar, math, and reading. Like you need to know things that, like a semicolon's the same thing as a period. Slaying the strategy, so going through all the test prep skills, how to approach sections of the test. Do you start with reading the passage first or start with looking at the questions? What do you do when you run out of time? If you run out of time, the correct answer is put the same answer down for all of them. And then mindset, talking about trusting your instincts, not changing answer choices, how to control your pressure or manage your pressure if test anxiety is an issue. Those three areas all help with the opportunity of increasing those scores. So to build your study plan, I recommend that you start with registering for a test date and then actually schedule backwards. So, like 2 or 3 weeks before the test date, I would make sure you're taking a full practice test, and then go back from that. So, if you already have your test scores, I'd look on studying for your highest and lowest section scores, because working on the section that you're already really good in and the section that you're weakest in is kind of artificially inflate the mean as fast as possible. And then I do recommend that you get somebody for accountability. So whether it's a friend that you're working with or you start working with a tutor or small group, but someone that's checking in to make sure that you're doing your practice. All right. So, like I said, please reach out with any questions that you might have. You could check out SATprephq.com to get more information about upcoming test dates, some of the differences for the enhanced ACT. Again, my name's Tina Wiles. I'm the founder and lead tutor at My Tutor. And here is my phone number, 630-576-0360. So feel free to call or text with any questions. Thank you so much. I hope this gave you some information about how to approach the ACT game over the next few months. And thanks to Slides Carnival for the cool retro, feels like Super Mario. All right. Have a wonderful evening.